Hello, everyone. Hello, happy Juneteenth. I always like to start off with a Bible verse. Today, I'm starting off by Matthew 18, verse 10. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say to you that in heaven the angels do always behold the face of a Father which is in heaven. I hope each and every one of y'all had a good Father's Day. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is the use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Thank you and welcome. I was doing a POF live stream yesterday and somebody was offering me $2,500 chat with them. I knew better than that, and I knew what kind of stuff would be up with that. So anyway, that put me in a mindset to talk about human trafficking in Tennessee, the facts, statistics, shelters, and prevention organizations. I will go ahead and I will share the link, share the page. I always like proving what I'm saying. Y'all know me. Right here, human trafficking in Tennessee, facts, statistics, shelters, and prevention organizations. The simplest way to define human trafficking is as a form of modern day slavery. It happens in Tennessee. Human trafficking is the second fastest growing criminal industry next to drug trafficking. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation reported that every county in the state had a case involving human trafficking in 2020. Y'all say that again? Reported that every county in the state had a case involving human trafficking in 2020. That's pretty sick. Every county in Tennessee in 2020 had a case involving human trafficking. I keep repeating that because that is very important to note. The reality of human trafficking is that it affects people of all genders, races, nationalities, and ages. Most reported trafficking cases involve women and minors. It is estimated that a child is bought or sold for sex every 2 minutes. Y'all see that? That a child, it is estimated that a child is bought or sold for sex every 2 minutes. Average age of minors sold for sex is 13 years old. That's, of course, they don't really know that because all the cases are not out there. There are a lot of cases where they're involved doing it in the home. And so them are not put in with the statistics because they were never noted. What does the law say about human trafficking in Tennessee? Human trafficking is an offense under federal laws under the Trafficking Victims and Protection Act, TVPA, of 2000. Human trafficking is forcing or coercing another person to engage in forced labor or criminal sexual activities. The Act gives the penalties of human trafficking and restitutions that should be paid to victims of human trafficking. The Act also establishes the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Person and the Interagency Task Force to monitor and combat trafficking. Since most trafficking cases occur locally, Tennessee has also enacted statutes to criminalize human trafficking. The statutes classify human trafficking as either a first or second degree felony. Tennessee statutes define what constitutes a human trafficking offense, the damages, and the reward entitled by the plaintiff. There's the types of human trafficking. There are various forms of human trafficking in Tennessee. These forms include the following: trafficking for forced labor. This form of trafficking involves forcing people to work against their will. Victims are primarily recruited for struggling countries using deception and coercion. They are then forced to work in agriculture, mining, fisheries, construction, domestic, and other labor intensive jobs. The second type is trafficking for sexual exploitation. This type of human trafficking mainly affects women lured with promises of employment and a better life. They are transported using false documentation and later end up in situations where they are exploited sexually. The third type is trafficking for removal of organs. In recent years, this form of trafficking has been on the rise. Traffickers harvest organs from people against their will and sell them to desperate patients needing organ transplants. Here's trafficking for forced criminal activities. Victims of this type of trafficking are forced to engage in various criminal activities to generate money for others. These activities can include theft, drug cultivation, drug trafficking, and selling counterfeit goods. Facts and statistics on human trafficking in Tennessee. Human trafficking is a hidden crime. Most cases are not reported because most people cannot identify the indicators of human trafficking. No common reporting system is used in Tennessee to aggregate the number of victims. However, the National Human Trafficking Hotline attempted to index the growth or decline of human trafficking in Tennessee. In 2021, the hotline received 525 signals, and 164 were from victims and survivors of human trafficking. Following an investigation, 152 cases were found, of which 115 involved sex trafficking, 13 involved labor trafficking, and 6 involved both sex and labor trafficking. The National Human Trafficking Hotline also identifies several venues for sex trafficking, which include pornography, hotel motel based sex trafficking, residence based commercial sex, online based, street based, escort delivery services. How do you go about reporting human trafficking in Tennessee? You may help save a life by reporting suspected cases of human trafficking. If you suspect someone is a victim of human trafficking, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline on the toll free hotline at 188 373 7888 or via text at 233 733 to submit a tip. Oh, thank you so much. Hi, Tammy. It's good to see you. Submit a tip online through the anonymous online reporting form on their webpage. Alternatively, call the Tennessee Human Trafficking Hotline at 855 558 6484. The hotline services are available 24/7 with more than 200 language interpreters. All reports remain anonymous and are investigated before action is taken. The efforts to combat human trafficking in Tennessee, according to Shared Hope International, Tennessee is ranked among the best states in dealing with human trafficking. I don't know about that. Collaboration between law enforcement agencies, government agencies, and nonprofits has significantly contributed to combating human trafficking. The Tennessee Anti Slavery Alliance, which includes 3 nonprofit agencies, is one of the bodies dedicated to identifying, protecting, and supporting Tennessee human trafficking victims. Other efforts have been made by the It Has to Stop campaign. That's a good name. It has to stop, which is dedicated to raising awareness and helping victims of human trafficking in Tennessee. The Office of Victims of Crime, the OVC, also contributes to combating human trafficking by funding victim assistance and compensation programs. Here's the myths and misconceptions. Yeah, 200 different languages. Yes, that's very impressive, isn't it? Myths and misconceptions about human trafficking blind most people. Examples of these myths include the following: human trafficking does not occur in the United States. False. Human trafficking only affects foreign born individuals. False. Human trafficking is only sex trafficking. False. Human trafficking only occurs when people are compelled or coerced into performing commercial sex acts. False. They can be underage. Human trafficking victims would attempt to seek help while in public. False. We're too scared to tell a lot of times. We're too afraid to go get help because they find us. They'll find us and hurt us worse or kill us. Human trafficking and human smuggling are the same. False. The smuggling is when you actually bring somebody across. You get paid, and the smuggler gets paid a fee to bring them over, but he does not go and traffic them. He brings them to a trafficker. These myths and misconceptions contribute to the rise in human trafficking. The lack of public awareness makes it difficult for people to identify human trafficking, even when it's happening in their own communities. Recent high profile arrests and prosecution. Tennessee recorded human trafficking cases in almost every county. On November 17, 2022, three people were charged with conspiracy to engage in sex and drug trafficking in Nashville. The individuals are Karen Bailey, Charles McLaughlin, and Charles Sumner. They had operated a human trafficking ring in Nashville for over a decade. This has been going on for over a decade. They had recruited dozens of women under pretenses and coercion. Traffickers targeted women addicted to drugs and allowed them to move into their houses. They then provided them with drugs to keep them addicted, and when they could not pay their rent, the women were forced to engage in commercial sex acts to pay off the rent. The three defendants maintained control over the women by restricting their children from going out without a chaperone. The case was investigated by a joint task force comprising Homeland Security Investigations, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the Metropolitan Nashville Police. The task force executed a search warrant on Blue Willow Court in Antioch, where they found several trafficking victims. Some were living behind the main house in a shed without electricity. Can you imagine in this heat? Can you imagine that? No electricity? Then there's Tennessee Human Trafficking Shelters and Prevention Organizations list. There's Avalon Center. Y'all can look these places up. It's in Crossville, Tennessee. There's Change is Possible, CHIPS Family Violence Shelter in Irwin, Tennessee. Chattanooga Room in the Inn. That's in Chattanooga, of course. Community Homeless Outreach and Support, the Brooks House in Lebanon, Tennessee. Cookville Rescue Mission, which is in Cookville, Tennessee. Domestic Violence Program, which is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. There's Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. Dyersburg, Dyer County Union Mission in Dyersburg, Tennessee. Haven of Rest Rescue Mission, which is in Bristol, Tennessee. Knox Area Rescue Ministries, Knoxville, Tennessee. Maranatha Rescue Mission, Chattanooga. Mary Parish Center in Nashville. Memphis Union Mission, that's in Memphis. Nashville Mission, which is in Nashville. The Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center, which is in Memphis. Shepherd's Inn in Elizabethtown, Tennessee. Women Are Safe in Centerville, Tennessee. Young Women's Christian Association of Nashville and Middle Tennessee, and that's in Nashville as well. So a minute ago, we were talking about the people in the three cases. Before we go on to that, I want to go to this one. In Tennessee, and this is from the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Human trafficking is a form of modern slavery that occurs in every state, including Tennessee. The National Human Trafficking Hotline works closely with service providers, law enforcement, and other professionals in Tennessee to serve victims and survivors of trafficking, respond to human trafficking cases, and share information and resources. Here's the all-time statistics since 2007. The Human Trafficking Hotline has received 4,272 signals since its inception. Cases since its inception, the Human Trafficking Hotline has identified 1,231 cases of human trafficking. 2,697 victims were identified in these cases. A lot of victims, y'all. 2,697. There's a lot more victims out there than we know. This is just a slap on the wrist about the victims. Signals received in 2021, 525 signals were received by a hotline in 2021 for Tennessee. The 164 signals received were from victims or survivors of human trafficking. How do contacts hear about the hotline? It is helpful for us to learn how people hear about the hotline so we can strategically advertise to reach more victims and survivors. However, we are not always able to collect this information during every conversation. They have a training conference, they have the internet, and there's other. The other was 518 people it would hit on. Signal types is hotline calls, which was 327. SMS reports, which that's a text message. Email received, and that's 43. Online report, 31. Web chat, 5. Cases identified in 2021, 152 cases were identified. 217 victims were involved in these cases. Cases can involve multiple victims. What types of trafficking cases were reported? The hotline receives tips about situations involving sex trafficking, sex and labor trafficking, as well as situations where the type of trafficking may be unknown or specified. And over here to the right, you can see that the type of trafficking, oops, it scrolled too far up. Okay, it's types of trafficking. Majority were sex, 115. 13 were labor, and 6 were sex and labor. Venues for labor trafficking, domestic work, 3. Other, 10. Venues for sex trafficking, there were 13 pornography, 12 hotel motel based, 10 residence based commercial sex, online ad venue unknown, 8. Escort delivery service, 3. Street based, 3. Other, 66. What was the primary quest in each case? People contact the hotline to report a tip, request a referral, or reach out for crisis related services such as immediate shelter or crisis response. Requests on human trafficking cases, 101 reported a trafficking tip. Thank you, whoever's doing that. Access service referrals, 44. Request crisis assistance, 7. Case demographics. The hotline only collects demographic information for victims and survivors in trafficking situations when appropriate. These numbers are not cumulative, as one case could involve multiple victims and survivors. Ages, adults there were 98. The minors right there were 48. Females, there were 124. Males, there were 18. Gender minorities, 3. Citizenships, the U.S. citizen LPR, 15. Foreign nationals, 9. The National Human Trafficking Referral. This online referral directory is made up of anti-trafficking organizations and programs that offer emergency, transitional, or long-term services to victims and survivors of human trafficking, as well as those that provide resources and opportunities in the anti-trafficking field. Right here, you can enter your city, state, or zip, and then you click go. There's a number at the top of the page again, and you can see what the title it's called up here is National Human Trafficking Hotline. You can do a search and find out there, and then go in there and type in Human Trafficking Hotline statistics. 50,123 signals were received by the hotline in 2021. Includes calls, text, and online chats and tips. Then it says discover the statistics from your own state, which a lot of y'all will love that. Select, from um, where you from? The judges, police, people, in government. It's going on in every nation. My good. Yeah, I know, because when I was trafficked, and then my dad took me to an auction, and it was the backdrop of a regular auction. In the back room was it's where the real deals went on. And then I forgot all about it, and then I met the guy years later, one of the boys involved in it, and I didn't know that he was involved in it. I had blocked a lot of this stuff out. And he was an Alabama state trooper at this time, and I met him at the library because we was talking genealogy. And he said he remembered me. I said, "What? From where?" He said, "From all the child porno." He said his dad had over 300, and I was in the majority of them. He was an Alabama state trooper. He didn't do nothing, but he got away with it. They all got away with doing that crap. They rather had their money, you know what I'm saying? Now, when I'm clicking on Tennessee, we did show that a little bit ago. That was just an example of what I did on the screen. And there's too many judges, and even look at pedophilia and what's going on in Franklin County, Tennessee, on the Gracie Grant Solomon, what had happened there. When the state senator Jack Johnson is just sweeping these sex abuse things under the rug, and his wife, Judge Deanna Johnson, is sweeping it under the rug, dropping the cases, not letting not prosecuting the people that's done these rapes to kids, even though one of them was a Sunday school teacher that had raped a 4 or 5 year old boy. They just swept it under the rug. They didn't prosecute him. Another was where a boy was gang raped at school, at the gym, and they just said, it don't really matter, it's nothing to it, and they just went ahead. So now they are having a big legal battle about it. Brentwood Academy in Franklin, Tennessee. There's a big scandal going on about that because of that. Now here's for the sex trafficking, and it does not mean this got a picture right here. This is Nashville Trio ran decade-long sex trafficking operation prosecutors. Okay, this is the three people that we were talking about earlier, and a person does not have to be tied up. This is symbolic also, because they kind of tie you up. You're afraid, even when you're not tied up, you're afraid to talk. You're afraid to do anything because you got to face the repercussions. And you probably already were taught that told before and nothing was done. So I'm not safe, as in my case. Nashville, Tennessee, a federal indictment unsealed Thursday's charges three people in the Nashville area in a sex trafficking and drug distribution conspiracy, announced U.S. Attorney Mark H. Wadassin for the Middle District of Tennessee. I want to go back up here for a minute, and this was actually, it said November 17th, 2022. Karen Faye Bailey, 42, Charles Chuck McLaughlin, 50, Charles Ponytail Sumner, 61, all of Antioch, were indicted Monday and charged with conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking and conspiracy to distribute cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. The sex trafficking and drug distribution happened out of a house in Antioch, prosecutors said in a media release. The indictment also charges a trio with sex trafficking three women by force or coercion for a financial gain. Documents filed in the court allege the trio has operating human trafficking operation in the Nashville area for more than a decade. Dozens of women are believed to have been recruited for the operation. Prosecutors say the defendants allowed women and children to move into their house, got them addicted to drugs, and they coerced them to perform sex acts for money. When the women, what's scary, you're thinking about that, when the women were working and all that, I hate to see what they were doing to the children. Probably even in front of the mom, and they couldn't do nothing about it or felt they couldn't. The defendants further maintained control of the women by not allowing them to ever take their children out of the house without a chaperone. The media release said so they couldn't run. Court documents also allege that the defendants provided drugs to the trafficked women to keep them addicted and sold drugs to commercial sex customers and others outside of the sex trafficking conspiracy. Father owned several businesses, including a music studio and a food truck, which were used to sell drugs. A search warrant was executed in March on Blue Willow Court in Antioch, where the defendants and some of the trafficked women were residing. Several trafficking victims were living in makeshift sheds without electricity behind the main house, prosecutors said. Sumner was arrested at his home this morning and will appear before a U.S. magistrate judge. He done research because this is 2022. Bailey and McLaughlin are currently in state custody. They could face a mandatory minimum of 15 years or up to life in prison. I think they need to serve longer than that. Yeah, and it is pretty scary what you were saying there, Tammy, because people in the government, it's going on, and nothing is being done. They're not kind of hiding their own things, and then they want to blame other people and say that. And I've known some police officers who actually used to. One of my ex neighbors, he would break into his ex wife's apartment next door and beat the heck out of her. But he kept getting away with it because he was a police officer. Metro Police take that. Here's another about them too. It took them into custody. Okay. Um, so I'm going to try to get further down here and see if I see it. Police entered the business on Fessler's Lane near the intersection of Elm Hill Pike and found no one in the building. According to MNPD, the three suspects lived and operated a small recording studio on Fessler's Lane, alleged to be tied to illegal activity, including drug sales. Please note, this content carries a strict local market embargo. If you share the same market as the contributor of this article, you may not use it in any platform. So, get out of that one. There's the different ones I was looking at, with the pictures and all. Yeah, and here's actually, I think I'm going to try to turn the volume because I'm fixing to do the video of it. Hello, everyone that's here. Please don't forget, please remember to hit the thumbs up.
We had a 6-hour layover in Rome, which was just enough time to tour the ruin. Do more with Viator.
This is a story we followed all day. Metro Police ended a months-long investigation, breaking up a possible human trafficking ring at a home as well as a business. Several people are in custody. News 4's Tosin Fakile joins us live at one of the locations where a warrant was served in Antioch. And Tosin, what else has happened over the last few hours?
Yeah, the scene has quieted down. We actually saw them take another person in custody while we were still here. But about an hour ago, Marius, police released these photos of people in custody on human trafficking charges, and they lived on this street, Blue Willow Court. Their 50-year-old Charles McLaughlin Jr., his girlfriend, 41-year-old Karen Bailey, and 60-year-old Charles.
I think it kind of like froze. So, um, close that one. Better picture of the three. All right. I'll have to look more into it and find out how much they were sentenced for how long. Okay. It's not showing the my page now, so it's green. Here's actually how the business looked. A months-long trafficking investigation had led to the morning's execution of search warrants at a business at Fessler's Lane and a home on Blue Willow Court in Antioch. That no one was present at the business Thursday during the execution of the search warrant. Fox 17 News spoke with a neighbor who lives just around the street from the business. It does seem like that's becoming a worse and worse problem here in Nashville, which is unfortunate, and I hope the police can quell that because it's a sad situation, said Timothy Parry. Parry says he drives by that business often and now he'll have his guard up more. It's pretty wild that something like that would be happening right beside us. It makes me question what else is going on and who could be lurking around, says Perry. Information to help our community become more informed of human trafficking issues can be found here. Track crime in your area with Alert Nest Crime Map. So another program I have found with this CCAHT program. It is community education. They provide free community focused and profession specific curricula to train and educate primary responders, industry professionals, and community members to recognize the red flags and safely respond to human trafficking cases. The trainings, the first one is Human Trafficking 101, recognizing and responding. The second one is Human Trafficking, medical providers, dental professionals. Next one is Human Trafficking, social services, case management professionals. Fourth one, human trafficking, transportation, hospitality professionals. Next one is human trafficking, legal professionals. Next one is human trafficking, mental health, behavioral health professionals. The last one is human trafficking, law enforcement. Interested in bringing a training to your group or place of work? Please contact info@ccaht.org for questions and inquiries. Again, it is info@ccaht.org for questions and inquiries. You can also download our resource guide for a list of great books, articles, and videos that will help you learn more about human trafficking and how to take action. If you have recently attended a CCAHT training, we love your feedback. That's how that one goes. The resources that it shows is perspective from the criminal justice, the impact of COVID on client relationship. There's a lot of different things to look. Save the Children and the Truth About Human Trafficking in East Tennessee. That was written by Lisa Bolton, August 14th, 2020. Psychological effects of human trafficking, depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. Then there's psychological effects of human trafficking, shame, isolation, and loss of self. Then there's psychological effects of human trafficking. How can you help? Part 3. This one is seeing human trafficking in Tennessee. This right here is written 3 years ago by Rebecca Warren. She's a volunteer. She goes, "Of course I read about it, but I had no idea it happened here," my mother in law said, gesturing around her. A lifelong resident of East Tennessee, she never considered her state a place where labor and sex trafficking could occur. After all, the gesture she made when she indicated here took in the farmland, trees, and mountains around her. This was not the setting of human trafficking, right? That gesture and all it encompassed caused me to think about why we Tennesseans might be surprised to learn, as I was, as my mother in law was, that people are trafficked in our state. It is possible the very attributes we cherish about Tennessee have contributed to the misconception that our home state isn't home to human trafficking. We prize the lush greenness of East Tennessee, the picturesque lakes and rivers. Here we're never far from a view of the quietly majestic profile of the Great Smoky Mountains. The prevalence of natural beauty in Tennessee seems incongruent with a crime we may assume belongs to big cities. Tennessee doesn't have major cities on the scale of Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. It doesn't look like this sort of place would expect to find sex and labor trafficking. According to her, that's what she says. But according to me, that's a perfect hiding place when there's so much people can hide in the woods or wherever. To me, that is the perfect ground. It might not feel like the sort of place either. A sense of community and connectedness is something a Tennessean will likely cite as part of the experience of living here. And within 2 miles of my mother in law's Chester were a Church of God, two Christian churches, and a Baptist and a Free Will Baptist church. Maybe the preponderance of places to worship and Tennessee's solid positioning in the Bible Belt have insulated the illusion that human trafficking isn't happening here. And if it were, surely all of our communities, faith groups, would be on the front lines of working to end it and caring for its own. That statement right there is so false. I don't think she really understands the gist of it all because a lot of these congregations, a lot of the churches and stuff are covering at front lines to a lot of the sex trafficking and stuff. Yet we know human trafficking is part of our reality in Tennessee. Fellow Tennesseans are being forced and coerced into providing sex, tricked and manipulated into labor in terrible conditions. The National Human Trafficking Hotline received 165 reports of human trafficking in Tennessee in 2018 through the PolarisProject.com. Those were reported cases. Human trafficking is difficult to track. It is so often goes underreported. It so often goes unseen. Of course, that's why I said the mountains are a perfect place, a perfect hiding ground. She said that exciting things are coming to our website will be under maintenance for the time being. If you don't see what you're looking for, please email info. This place right here is very good on helping others. Make this work possible. Your support in enabling survivors of human trafficking in East Tennessee to reclaim their safety, their health, and their future. Take a look at our impact stories and annual impact reports to learn more about the transformative change you are igniting right here in our society. I just think you are on this beginning. Hi there, Bucket List. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go to Impact Stories Alert. This is Alexis right here. Alexis was promised the opportunity to explore America and its culture as part of a program that would allow her to come to the United States from abroad and work as an au pair. Au pair. I don't know how to say that word. It's French. She learned quickly that the circumstances of the arrangement were not as she had agreed. Alexis was expected to work around the clock, caring for up to 6 children. You're quite working on bucket list. She was not afforded the opportunity for any sightseeing, and she had received only a fraction of the income she had been promised. Alexis lived with her host family, but she did not have the option to stop working for them. And because she wasn't being paid, she could not afford a new place to stay. The household was ridden with domestic violence and substance abuse, and Alexis was regularly victimized. Alexis attempted to report these conditions to the airport agency that had recruited her, but was dismissed and accused as being personally responsible for her situation. She attempted to report her victimization to law enforcement and as a result was forced to share her story repeatedly with various officers and agents, ultimately resulted in a failed attempt at justice. See, she went for help. She went for help. They did nothing. They did nothing. Throughout her attempts to try to escape her situation, Alexa lost the visa that allowed her to work in the United States. She was out of options and was forced to move back into the abusive situation with the host family, where the psychophysical, emotional, and psychological abuse continued. During the process, Alexis was linked up with Grow Free Tennessee through a referral by a community partner. Alexis was able to receive financial and supportive services to help facilitate a new housing opportunity that allowed her to leave the abusive home. Y'all need to really look up Grow Free Tennessee. She was connected with the opportunity for employment and began her path toward reclaiming her independence. GFTN, Guilford, Tennessee, was able to connect Alexis with a law enforcement agency that was able to assist in facilitating temporary legal status while linking Alexis with a community partner to assist with an application for her T visa. Because of her temporary status facilitated by the law enforcement partner, Alexis was able to earn gainfully employment and return to school to earn a CCMA. 2 years later, Alexis received her T visa, a visa status that is specific to individuals affected by trafficking. She told a EFTN staff member, "It's so amazing. It just feels like it's easier to breathe now. I'm so grateful. I'm not in the dark anymore." She recently informed GFTN that she is in the process of applying to go back to school and earn her BSN. "I'm so grateful I'm not in the dark anymore." Wow, that is an amazing story. That is that is wonderful hearing this. And I'm going to see what uh, Ariana's story is. Okay. Ariana is a 35-year-old female with a college education who, through a series of unfortunate events, found herself homeless and battling a substance addiction. What hurt Ariana the most was losing custody of her children. After spending some time in jail, Ariana was transferred to the CCAHT through her probation officer to help separate her from her traffickers and facilitate the necessary support for getting herself back on her feet. Ariana acknowledged that her vulnerability to victimization was influenced by inconsistency in maintaining housing and having her basic needs met. You're right, Tabby. CPS needs to explain how 85,000 children went missing under them. After 6 months, they get taken off the list. No one looking for them. That's true. For day one, Ariana was determined to use this opportunity to maximize the potential she knew she had. The CCAHT Safe House allowed Ariana the solid foundation she needed to begin to organize her goals and determine the steps she needed to take to achieve them. Immediately, the CCAHT staff recognized her potential and praised the diligence and dedication shown by Ariana. Ariana acknowledges the CCAHT empowerment approach as evident by her statement. "I appreciate the opportunity y'all have given me to show that I'm a responsible adult. The CCAHT staff have worked around the clock to provide encouragement and support towards Ariana's success. But the hard work and passion Ariana has shown is admirable, to say the least. Ariana is working diligently toward earning a job and housing of her own. She is able to see her children almost daily while still maintaining sobriety and compliance with her terms of probation. Ariana works with a CCAHT therapist and a personal care coordinator as she forges a new path of opportunity for herself. Ariana recently expressed her gratitude. "There are not even words to express how happy I am to be where I am right now in life, and a lot of that has to do with people I met being in the house. It makes me so happy that y'all all so proud of me in the corner, my corner." Okay, I'm gonna get past that right there, and I'll play this little. I'm gonna mute myself when so that this can. Y'all will not hear me for a few minutes.
What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is modern day slavery. It is the exploitation of a person through force, fraud, or coercion. Human smuggling and human trafficking are different crimes. Human smuggling is the illegal movement of someone across a border. Human trafficking is the illegal exploitation of a person. Human trafficking is about exploitation, not transportation. Human trafficking is a highly profitable crime and a violation of human rights. It occurs in every part of the world, including here in the United States. It happens in our big cities, our suburbs, and even in rural towns. It can happen to anyone. Human trafficking victims can be US citizens or from other countries. Victims can be any age, race, or gender. But one thing they share is that they are vulnerable to being exploited. There are different types of human trafficking, including sex trafficking, forced labor, and domestic servitude. Sex trafficking victims are manipulated or forced against their will to engage in sex acts for money. Sex traffickers might use violence, threats, manipulation, or the promise of love and affection to lure victims. Truck stops, hotel rooms, rest areas, street corners, clubs, private residences. These are just some of the places where victims are forced to sell sex. Any person under the age of 18 involved in a commercial sex act is considered a victim of human trafficking. No exceptions. Forced labor takes on many forms, and it happens here in the US and overseas. Through force, fraud, or coercion, victims are made to work for little or no pay. Very often, these victims are forced to manufacture or grow the products that we use and consume every day. Victims of forced labor could be found in factories, on farms, doing construction work, and more. Victims of domestic servitude are hidden in plain sight, forced to work in homes across the United States. Their traffickers sometimes take their identification papers and travel documents in order to limit their freedom. They are prisoners, working as nannies, maids, or domestic help. Every year in the United States, thousands of human trafficking cases are reported, but many more go unnoticed. That's because human trafficking is a hidden crime. Victims might be afraid to come forward, or we may not recognize the signs, even if it's happening right in front of us. We need to bring this crime out of the shadows. That's why the Department of Homeland Security created the Blue Campaign, to take a stand against modern-day slavery and help combat this heinous crime by raising awareness of human trafficking around the country. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. So what can you do to stop human trafficking? Visit the Blue Campaign website to learn more about the signs and indicators of human trafficking. Share this video on social media to help bring this crime out of the shadows. Be an informed consumer. Know who makes the products you buy and the food you eat to help keep slavery-tainted items out of your home. And finally, recognize and report suspected human trafficking. You can submit a tip to federal law enforcement online or by phone. For victim support, you can call or text the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. Help us bring this crime out of the shadows and into the light. Join the Blue Campaign. One voice, one mission, end human trafficking.
That says a lot right there, doesn't it? And it actually has it too. What is human trafficking? Well, you can download the video also, and download it with captions as well. And then there's infographics where you can download as well. So I had went ahead and I downloaded a couple of stuff, and this one is a lengthier one right here. Human trafficking in Tennessee, which is a prevention resource guide. And here is the impact report on 2021. It says CCAHC has completely changed my entire life. I've been trafficked twice. I'm 43, and I'm just learning what a real hug feels like. This is the first time I've experienced inner happiness. Then there's a letter from executive director. Sorry. He thanks everybody. Mission and work. Number one, prevention. This year we trained 3,250 community league members to recognize and respond to potential trafficking cases. Two, intervention. Through our working groups, Free Knox Kids and 423 Unsilenced, we fostered community collaboration to fill gaps in human trafficking response and services for kids. Aftercare. Our direct services program, Grow Free Tennessee, received 300 referrals of human trafficking and actively served 212 survivors of all ages and genders. It's crazy how much can happen in 1 year. I was in and out of hotels, and now I have my own apartment, Jordan says. CCAHT unites and equips our community, Knoxville, and 33 counties of East Tennessee to end human trafficking through prevention and intervention while providing survivors with trauma informed, comprehensive aftercare services. This Tennessee map shows the counties we served and impacted in 2021. It, when it's like that, provided direct service, it's kind of darker. Provided specialized training, it's the gray areas, and provided both, it's the tan area. There's a story of hope here. At age 14, Natasha was tricked and deceived by her 20-year-old boyfriend. He used promises of love and the enticement of belonging to convince her to run away with him. She conceded after weeks of manipulation. Once she ran away with her boyfriend began bringing friends to spend time with her. These friends were abusive and forced Natasha to engage in unwanted sexual acts. Over time, the pain of abuse was too much to bear, and Natasha was introduced to substances that could numb the pain. Anytime Natasha asked her boyfriend to go home, he would threaten her family and blackmail her. After months of abuse, Natasha decided to take her own life. Luckily, she was unsuccessful and was treated at a mental health hospital. Within 6 weeks of being home, she attempted to take her own life again. It was clear that Natasha was in pain. After her second suicide attempt, Grow Free Tennessee was called in to meet with Natasha in partnership with the Residential Trafficking Recovery Program. Thank you so much for doing that. Fast forward, and you'll find that Natasha is now 16 years old. She has been sober for over a year. Great. She has been reunited with her biological family and now calls herself a survivor. Though the journey of healing is not yet complete for Natasha, she has come a long way in her recovery. We count it a joy that we've been able to walk alongside Natasha as she learns how to grow free. Measure of progress. I started working with Ally in February of 2021 because she frequently left home without permission and older individuals formed inappropriate relationships with her. Allie was sent to a residential treatment facility for traumatized youth and spent a total of 9 months away from her family. I met with her every single week and helped her process every hardship she came across along the way. In February of 2022, Ellie finally graduated from her many programs, and that year I saw a kid who was broken, lonely, and struggling to trust adults turn into a strong and ambitious teen. She has completed every requirement asked of her, mended relationships with caring family members, returned to school, and worked tirelessly to better herself. Say I'm proud of her would be an understatement. All the all this to say working with at risk youth is tough, but every time I feel like I'm running in place, I remember this teen and how consistent support and advocacy changed her life. Success stories like hers help me get through the hardest days. Then it said, your partnership sparks change. Because people like you took action to make our community a better place. CCAHT trained 3,250 individuals across East Tennessee and beyond last year. These trainings included specialized sessions specifically catered to medical providers, legal professionals, law enforcement, DCS employees, educators, parents, youth services workers, dentists, hospitality workers, and more. The presentation provided tangible and applicable skills in identifying those being trafficked and how to overcome potential barriers for these patients. 13 different curricula. Well, Free Tennessee in 2017, the coalition launched its trauma response direct services program, Grow Free Tennessee. Among the services we provide through GFTN are safe shelter, 24/7 crisis hotline, trauma responsive case management, basic needs, traditional and alternative therapies, intervention support, transportation assistance, relational case management for youth, legal advocacy, foster parents, caregiver support and training, access to medical care, safety planning, and more. 2021 was Grove Free's busiest year yet, and we could not have served each survivor that walked through our doors without you. How we serve. Emergency Receiving Center. It's a barrier crisis shelter that provides a safe place for survivors to rest and access services. The ERC also operates our 24/7 crisis hotline. The Phoenix House is a supportive transitional housing program that offers space for survivors that builds self sufficiency while also receiving individualized trauma response therapy and case management. As You Are program is a partnership between CCAHT and the Tennessee Department of Corrections to provide classes to incarcerated women with a history of trafficking or exploitation in an effort to support healing and reduce recidivism. Youth Services will provide trauma response, case management, and home therapy, advocacy, and psychoeducation for children and youth who have experienced trafficking. And it says right here that there's a 2021 overview that 300 referrals were received, 143 adults, 157 youth, 212 survivors actively served, 108 adults, 104 youth. Took 16 days average length of stay at ERC. 44 youth completed the Empower Youth program. 1,821 bed nights across ERC and Penny's House. 5,768 unique services provided to survivors. We serve individuals of all ages, and in 2021, we supported survivors ages 3 to 60 years old. So even if you're 70 years old or anything like that, if you need help from them, don't hesitate to contact them. There's another story of hope. At 44 years old, Marvin was living in Uganda as a missionary from the United States. As a natural born U.S. citizen, he thought he would have no trouble getting back and getting on his feet now that he was ready to return. Unfortunately, he was deceived by a religious organization who promised to help him get housing and a job upon his return to the United States. Once he arrived, he was forced to beg for money at intersections in order to have a place to stay. The leader would drop him off and stay nearby to ensure he was following their rules. The leader also took all the money Marvin obtained in an effort to keep him reliant on the organization. Marvin felt as though he was stuck because he did not have any resources or other local supports. But Marvin did find a way out. He was able to ask for help and escape the situation. He reached out to a different religious organization who helped him contact TBI. Once TBI was made aware of the situation, they connected him with Grow Free. Though he is still working toward independent housing and stable income, Marvin is currently in safe shelter and is thriving. He is growing vegetables, woodworking, and enjoying the outdoors. With Grow Free Tennessee in his corner, Marvin is able to build self sufficiency and hope for his future. Then there's 2021 financials, which, through your generous support, you have provided new opportunities for the CCAHT to bring our mission to life, put love into action, and serve our community in 2021. The partnership allowed CCAHT to facilitate more trainings, foster deeper collaboration, and serve more survivors of trafficking in East Tennessee than ever before. And y'all know that's where little Missing Summer Wells is from around that area. She's in East Tennessee. There's other kids that's been caught trafficking over there as well. There's too many cases, especially over there. Thank you for allowing us to be good stewards of our financial investments, time, and passion for this mission in 2021. We got an annual budget where there's direct services, awareness, collaboration, and power in general. There's government grants, individual contributions, foundation trust grants, corporate contributions, corporate business grants. There's partners for change. Funding partners are the pilot company East Tennessee Foundation, Haslam Family Foundation, State of Tennessee, Allen, Indiana, Rizzalara, OCJCP, United Way of Greater Knoxville. We need one not just in Knoxville and East Tennessee. We need this all over the whole entire state of Tennessee. We don't need it just in East Tennessee and Knoxville. It needs to be widespread. Then there's funding ambassadors, which I'm not going to go through their names for privacy reasons. Community partners. Our counter trafficking task force is comprised of multidisciplinary teams, including Free Knox Kids and 423 Unsilenced, through which we bring service providers and community agencies together to address the needs of trafficked individuals in our community by collaborating on active cases, sharing intelligence and resources, and ensuring that victims are connected to services. Below are just a few of our community partners: Seventh Well, Branch House Family Justice Center, CASA of East Tennessee, CHAMPS, Child Protection Services, Department of Children's Services, East Tennessee Children's Hospital, East Tennessee State University College of Social Work, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Florence Crittenden Agency, Frontier Health Juvenile Justice Reform Program, Gateway Residential Treatment Center, Hope Center, the Child Advocacy Center, Katie Miller Residential Treatment Center, KCDC, Knox County District Attorney, Knox County Health Department, Knox County Juvenile Department, Knoxville Police Department, Knox County Probation, Link House, Mark Black, Blair's Project, National Human Trafficking, Omnivision's Rest Stop Ministries. There is Rhea County Juvenile Detention, Safe Harbor Child Advocacy Center, Safe House, Street Hope, Tennessee, TBI, Tennessee Counter Trafficking Alliance, the McNabb Center, the Sexual Assault Center, East Tennessee, Tennessee Voices, University of Tennessee College of Social Work, Vanderbilt Center of Excellence, Volunteer Ministry Center, Washington County Family Justice Center, Youth Villages, and WYCA Knoxville and the Tennessee Valley. Thank you. Would like to thank the community partner volunteers. Okay. I think that's it for that page right there. And that right there is very important to go over. One day we'll go over that. But when we went over the video a few minutes ago, and then here's the infographics that you could actually get from their website too. What is Human Trafficking Blue Campaign? One voice, one mission, and trafficking. Human trafficking is modern day slavery, exploiting a person through force, fraud, or coercion, Sex trafficking, forced labor, and domestic servitude happening everywhere, even in the United States, and victims can be U.S. citizens or any other nationality, age, socio, socioeconomic status, or gender. Any person under the age of 18 involved in a commercial sex act. It's a highly profitable crime, and it's talked about that smuggling and human trafficking are two separate things. It is happening everywhere in the suburbs and rural towns and cities. It can happen to anyone, no matter the race, age, or gender. And there's different types of human trafficking, as we discussed about it. It's sex trafficking, forced labor, and domestic servitude. Every year in the United States, thousands of human trafficking cases are reported, but many more go unnoticed. Human trafficking is a hidden crime. Victims might be afraid to come forward or may not recognize the signs. Even if it's happening right in front of us, we need to bring this crime out of the shadows. And then how the Department of Homeland Security is fighting human trafficking? They created a blue campaign to take a stand against modern day slavery and help combat this heinous crime by raising awareness of human trafficking around the country. What you can do to stop human trafficking, join the DHS Blue Campaign. Visit the Blue Campaign website at dhs.gov/blue hyphen campaign. Learn more about the signs and indicators of human trafficking. Spread the word, download and share anti human trafficking materials. You and share our public service announcement. And also follow us at Facebook. They have Facebook that says facebook.com/blue campaign. And it goes on and on there. And I was also want to go ahead and show, I'm going to go to, excuse me, right quick, StreamYard again. I'm afraid it would knock me off if I go over there. So I guess I'll go to my YouTube, right in the big letters. Sorry. Please forgive me. All right. Please remember to hit the likes. I want to show y'all some of the different lives that I did just so that y'all could go back and maybe watch some of the things because some of it does bring back awareness to some of them. Okay? I'm going to get, wow, I didn't realize I did that many times. Okay, there's introduction about my channel, discussion the common reactions of a child or teenager after trauma, preventing child sexual abuse, Deontay Tavoris Glass, 5-year-old, story of Deontay Tavoris Glass, uh, a brief rundown of events, discussing child abuse and sharing a little of our stories, discussing different abuse topics. Today was another day of disappointments with our local. Discussion about an autistic gentle soul, Joe Clyde Daniels. Alabama man pleads guilty to 164 sex crimes, including sexual torture. Never child abuse. Tennessee laws added in, newer child abuse Tennessee laws added in 2021 and 2022. Chat about child abuse and pedophilia. Discussing topics. Discussion on how some people view and belittle survivors. Discussion on my personal story. What's the definition of sex trafficking? The story of Nicole, 5-year-old daughter of Melissa Town. Active missing child alerts in Tennessee. Discussion on some Tennessee sex crimes. Human Trafficking Rescue Incorporated. Toothpick painting. Justice for Tate Boynton. Sparky Lee is here to share his harrowing story and speak his story. Dear mother, I survived. Let's chat pedophilia and its database in the Jehovah Witness organization. 3-year-old boy Nehemiah from Houston, Texas, severely beaten. A Texas woman, Raven Yates, abandoned her 3-year-old son. Tennessee DCS worker fired and charged with child solicitation. Discussing Project Safe Childhood's fact sheet. Police support freedom for Gracie and for the police to reopen the case on Grant Sullivan, bringing awareness to a few horrible cases in Alabama. Junior's House org, discussion on information about Summer Wells, further updates on Taylor Mosley. Where is Taylor Mosley? Body of missing Taylor Mosley found. Thomas Balba murdered by his father. He was a New York Police Department officer. What is human trafficking? Identify indicators, cases. Woodier Gavon and Memphis, Tennessee, and Brittany Howard, Kentucky, indicted for trafficking. Staggering church sex abuse in Maryland. Contrition is not enough. Two men accused of trying to kidnap a 7-year-old boy in Kentucky. After facing accusations of raping a female inmate, Maury County, he still works for them, the agency, after he even having sex with one of the inmates. The trouble with Franklin, Tennessee, that's very in depth. That talks about, the what I was talking about, the case and Senator Jack Johnson, his wife, and the cases that I was telling about that earlier. Let's discuss Summer Wells. Strange Lad, she shares a story, Blog Talk Radio. Let's discuss human trafficking and sex trafficking examples. Young girl in Memphis, Tennessee was kidnapped on her way to school. Florida grandma charged after the second grandchild died while in her care. 3-month-old infant found dead inside babysitter's apartment. Franklin pastor Daryl Hayes, 30, faces 6 counts of sexual stuff. Sarah Keegan was murdered on February 9, 2020 by her biological. Some kidnapped and missing kids stories. Taylor Mosley, the boy in Florida, is found in Alligator's Mouth. A married couple, Zachary Zillock and William Zillock, adopted 2 boys and then they sexually trafficked them and all that. So that's a video on that about a month ago. I did that. Child sex abuse, what is it, the effects, and what parents need to know. Domestic abuse victim and her family are being threatened. Memphis, Tennessee police warned the public of a man kidnapped young women and young girls. And because of a child predator, Memphis parents are worried. Richard Huckle, Britain's worst pedophile. Memphis, Tennessee mother slammed 2-year-old son onto a concrete bench outside. Benjamin Taylor raped and murdered his girlfriend's 10-month-old daughter. Citizens Guide to U.S. Federal Child Exploitation and Obscenity Laws. Let's chit chat. Let's discuss child marriages in the United States. Well, I would recommend y'all to watch that one. Y'all would be astounded. Astounded. Although, it says a lot of states say you got to be 17-year-old to marry. There's some ways that the justice system in some states is allowing even 10-year-olds to marry adult men. So I would advise y'all, if y'all want to know more information about that, be sure to watch that. Let's discuss child marriages in the United States. Stricter child sexual abuse laws. Discussion on Department of Homeland Security's efforts. Tennessee DCS fails to investigate um, CSA reports. This here in Tennessee, so here's where they failed to investigate it was happening in their own place. Daryl Fent, survivor, thriver, and advocate. Sunday created another blog channel. Get to know his personal story, Gracie Grant Sullivan's story, meet Jessica Brown. Jessica Brown for survivor to thriver and advocate. Viewpoints on lessons learned, sexting, arrest plus more. Johnson County, Indiana child solicitation stings. Talking about the ourrescue.org. We exist to rescue children from sex trafficking. Fred Hill Jr.'s arrest. It's just a little tablet because a lot of people were saying some things that um, was not true, and I wanted to get the facts out there for sure because they were saying that it was probably stemmed from a sting operation that per said day or whatever. But I'm proving on that video that it shows that it stemmed from a case in 2022, March 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. Then the Summer Wells discussion, let's talk about it. It's and now this, the human trafficking in Tennessee facts, statistics, and shelters. So I just want to please ask y'all if y'all would go and further investigate a lot of that I've already said, because there's a lot of proof out there, a lot that substantiates a lot of things like Tammy is saying as well. We cannot just trust anybody and everything, even though CPS might be an organization. Um, there are some good people out there, and I've got so many friends who CPS has taken away from the decent, loving parent and has placed them in harm's way of the pedophile, sex offender. This is what's going on big time all over to a lot of my friends on Facebook. DCS is not doing their job. The government's not doing their job. Matter of fact, they're lying, and if you try to fuss about it, then you end up going to jail about it. They're trying to get a crime against you, but it's actually the governor or senator or something like that that's doing something. As in one of my friend's cases, and she misses her kids really bad. But a lot of my friends do. And this is so wrong, y'all. It's so wrong for our government to go ahead and decide what's done with our kids. And of course, y'all seen cases where all of a sudden the kids, kids play pretend, okay? Kids at times they'll feel like they want to be something else because they're a little jealous about, oh, if you're a girl, you don't have to work as hard as a boy, and such as, you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes they might say, well, I feel like I'm a girl or something. And did you know some parents actually lost custody of their young little child because they refused to go ahead and do some things about transitioning their child into the opposite sex at 3 or 4 years old just because the kid had said at that percent time? A lot of kids do make believe, but they won't want to run our children. Need to be there for them. Taking a lot of responsibilities away from us, and yet they tell us we don't need to give responsibilities to teachers for disciplining our kids, but then they're reprimanding the parents for um, doing something and giving our kids, trying to guide our kids in the right way. But if we don't guide them the way that they want, that's when they come after us, and that's so wrong. Like you said, there are so many missing kids. There was one guy who I saw his video, and he said a bunch of these kids have been are with tractors. He said he rescued, I think it was one day he rescued four, but another one of the victim children he didn't get out in time. It was dead in the trunk of a car. And he said they're able to. Uh, People are getting smarter, so they're waiting till about the last minute before they meet up and say we're meeting up, da da da. So they don't have time to organize and try to get the kids to safety. And that per said day, I think there was about 40 kids or so, and they got there a little bit too late. The kids had done been sacrificed and stuff. A lot of times that's what they're doing for with our kids too, for these organizations, and do these cruel things to them. Horrendous. They did not get there in time. Come and take our kids away, and they don't even let parents. Even there's some parents that's actually doing exactly what CPS tells them to do, and they're still not returning them. They'll make an excuse or something like that. I don't know where he's at. We lost contact. Excuse me, y'all should be the one that's taking care. If that happened to a parent and your child was missing and you didn't report it or whatever, y'all know how fast we would be under the jail? Y'all know how quickly? And yet our government is doing that to our children, and they're getting away with it. It's terrible. So I want to thank y'all for coming and everything, and I hope this has shed some light on human trafficking in Tennessee, and know that it's not just in Tennessee, that it's all over the United States, all over the world. And that's when I first started reading. It actually said in 2020, every county in the state of Tennessee in 2020 had a case of human trafficking reported. Every county. And it's like, wow, wow. So if you want to say that, well, that county's a little safer, that you don't really know. You don't. There's too many people out there. And for one thing that I read, they said every 2 minutes a child is sold to sex. Every 2 minutes, and that's estimated. Now look about all the cases that's not even reported. Get that into equation. Probably would not even be every 2 minutes. It probably be about like every second a child is. I'm telling you, it's really sick, y'all. Very sickening. And don't get me wrong, some of the children that's been sold is being sold again, but still it's wrong. No matter if it's a repeated person getting resold again, this is still wrong. We need to take care of our precious gems, speak out for them, show them the love and consideration and concern that all these other people's not showing. Even if it's not our children, we need to be there for them and support them as well. Because we might be the child's only hope for survival. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming, and may God bless y'all.